Hello and thank you for being interested in having a career in policing. I'm Jeanette McCormick, I'm a Deputy Chief Constable and I've got over 30 years in policing. Hopefully what we're going to do is show you why people have joined, what's been their inspiration. We've got real officers talking about their real experiences. We'll really cover the questions that you want to know as well. If we are going to serve the public absolutely the best we can, we need a whole range of diverse people in policing. We know we've got to change, and part of that change comes from within. It's having a really diverse workforce that brings that authentic voice of communities to us. We want to make sure that we encourage and attract people from every community, provide them the support to have the careers that they want and to flourish. So hopefully this will ask some of the questions and answer some of the things that you want to ask of our real officers.
I'm Eddie Redman, Police Constable, West Midlands Police, currently work in the Positive Action team, helping with recruitment, retention and progression.
I'm Coretta Hine, Detective Chief Superintendent, and I've been in policing for over 30 years.
Hi, I'm Tony Logborough, I'm Superintendent in the Police Force, currently working on the Police Uplift programme, and I've been an officer now for a little over 27 years in a variety of roles, including both as a uniform officer and a detective.
I'm PC David Willits, I work for GMP and I have been with the force for 15 years.
I think if we look at the relationships that we've got with minority ethnic communities, I think there is distrust, and I think we've got to be honest and open about that. And it goes back to a whole range of incidents, from if you look at the murder of Stephen Lawrence, you look at the more recent events as well. And I think there is lots of learning to do. We need to look at how we police our communities. We need to look at how we recruit. We need to change, and part of that change comes from people joining us from different communities, but it also means we have to really critically look at how we police and change the way that we do things to build that trust and confidence in communities.
If there's racism in society, then by definition there must be racism in policing. So I don't deny that there's racism in policing. What I would say is that policing does absolutely everything that it can not to tolerate that racism. But we're not there yet, we're still on a journey, and that's why we want the service to become more representative, so that we've got that cultural awareness to be able to move us forward.
I know certainly when I joined, I had a lot of friends who would stop talking to me and obviously moved away from me. But that hasn't stopped me from becoming an officer, but I've also gone on to recruit a lot more officers from those communities.
When I joined the job, my friends and my family were really concerned about me becoming a police officer. Where I grew up in Manchester's Moss Side, we didn't always at that point, some 27, 28 years ago, have a favourable view of policing. And I did lose some friends. Fortunately for me, I went on and gained many, many more friends in the service. And after what for me was a relatively short period, my family realised becoming a police officer didn't stop me being a human being, and that as an individual, I still remain the same person and the same brother, uncle, relative to them, son, as I'd always been.
I think there's a perception that it's a very male-dominated and can some to be a macho and physical career. You know, I've got 30 years in policing and it's changed phenomenally during that time. I felt like I was a handful of women when I joined, but now we've got over or nearly 50% of our joiners are women.
I don't think it's jobs for the boys anymore. I think it's become a lot more diverse, especially specialised units. So I think that's come on leaps and bounds.
When I joined policing, I think that we often had a kind of macho mentality. We always had to present this really tough exterior and you weren't allowed to show your feelings, etc, etc. Policing's moved on massively during the quarter of a century basically that I've been an officer. We recognise now that people are individuals and that kind of macho culture is just not acceptable. Culturally we've moved on from that. We have much greater numbers of female officers.
Policing's changed phenomenally. I've got 30 years in policing. I've got 2 daughters. I've had those daughters while I've been in policing. I was probably one of the first ones sort of 20 odd years ago that went part-time, and now flexible working opportunities, term time working are all available. I think there's been those pathfinders that have really changed the culture, and I think as people come in with different aspirations, that will change the culture as well. So yes, I do think there is real opportunity to get that balance of family and career.
People often ask, how do you balance family life with being a police officer? Well, for me, I've got 5 children, and I have to admit it's always been a juggling act. It's something that's never easy, but actually that the service helps you to deal with, whether that be in flexible work practices, time off for dependence leave, for example, if they're ill. You can have parental leave, paternal leave. Obviously, we've got good leave anyway in terms of the number of weeks that you're granted, but we do everything possible to accommodate families because we recognise that if our staff can't look after their own family, then how can they be an effective officer and how can we keep them at work? And we do not want to lose our staff, so it's important that we're family friendly.
I think forces have improved a lot over the last couple of years regarding those that have families, especially single parent families. I have quite a few LGBT people that have got children either through IVF or adopted, and I've found that the police forces have supported them all through the procedures and also during the childcare and welfare of that person during this time.
I think fitness can be a real worry for everybody. It's sometimes a real worry, it was for me when I first came back from having my children as well. There is a physical element and there's a physical test to pass. It isn't a difficult physical level. We'll help and support you in that. We'll show you what it is, and we will actually put that sort of wraparound to enable you to do that. It's to make sure you're fit enough to do some of the elements of the job, but it's not, you certainly don't have to be able to do a marathon to get through that physical fitness. And if you're worried about your age, I can do it.
People worry about the fitness side of being a police officer. What I would say is we're not looking for Olympians. In fact, if I'm honest, when I joined, which was many years ago, the actual running side of it was much more difficult. We're looking for you to have a basic level of fitness, and you can do a lot to help yourself with that. If you smoke, reduce it or give up. Don't drink too much alcohol. If you're carrying a little bit too much weight, maybe look to lose some, and do some basic training, jogging, maybe some interval training, other sports as well that you just enjoy, whether that be football, tennis, whatever it happens to be, and just build up that level of fitness. Above all, don't worry, if you're committed enough and you want to be an officer, the test is not something that's going to stand in your way.
The fitness test, I believe, is not as frightening as people think it's going to be. There are also things that can be put in place if you do fail a fitness test, where you will be supported and given plans and direction to improve to pass the fitness test. So I don't think it's anything that anybody should be worried about. It can, it can be adapted to fit your needs.
I can speak about myself personally as a Muslim. I'm allowed to observe Ramadan. Depending on the team I'm on, I can go and pray Jummah, and there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to my religion.
If you're a person of faith, don't worry. It's something that I'd be welcoming into the service, and actually it's great. It will give you a great moral standing, which will support you to be a police officer. You'll never be ridiculed for it, and actually many of my friends have strong faith themselves, whether that be as Muslim officers, Christian officers, Jewish officers. It's not anything to worry about at all, and I would say, if anything, it's very compatible with what we do as a service in terms of delivering compassion to individuals, caring about people. Your faith should actually help to inform your values, and those values will fit with being a police officer.
There's a reality that there's always a balance between making sure that you can practice your faith, but also the operational imperatives as well. So in terms of prayer rooms, in terms of uniform, and making sure that that's sort of culturally appropriate as well. You will be able to do that, but there will be times when there is an operational imperative that means that, you might have to have a balance between what you're able to do around your religion and what you're able to do around policing.
You're allowed to wear religious symbols, and you're also allowed to wear certain clothing. So, for example, our Sikh colleagues will wear the turban. So obviously, as an organisation, we have moved on, and it's a lot more accepting of difference.
No, you don't need to divulge your sexuality when you join the police, but if you do, obviously it is treated in confidence and will be stored securely within the force. However, it is your choice what you divulge around your sexuality.
So I don't believe that being a member of the LGBT plus community will hold an individual back within the organisation from progression or lateral development. And the reason for that is because there's so much education. Officers are trained in terms of understanding the different communities, the different protected characteristics. We have a number of officers who are open about their sexuality and are happy to support, mentor, guide, develop officers that are new into the organisation and those that are in the organisation. There's lots of policies and processes as well to protect individuals from being discriminated against.
Being openly gay in policing, I've never had any issues with it. In fact, I think it's been a benefit to the force. I have always had really good support from my line managers and supervision through the different roles I've had within the force. So I personally never experienced any issues with being an openly gay officer.
I think the culture has changed over time, and I think people are far more confident to call that out, and it's really important that you come in knowing that if you do face discrimination, whatever that discrimination is, that not only do we have the procedures to record and report that, but you've got frontline supervisors who will support you in that. We've got staff networks to support you in that as well. But you've also got the confidence to call you out. I think the attitude and the culture is changing, and that means that people are far more able to point out that things are wrong, and then we change them and we learn from that and we move on. We know we have to be a learning organisation. We are not totally right, but hopefully we give you that support and confidence to do that.
The advice I would give to someone thinking of joining the police is do it. It's a great career. There's so many opportunities. It's just so varied and so vast in terms of what you can do. So it's a great career for anybody who's got an interest in community, giving back to the community and wanting to do something that's new, different, challenging. No 2 days are the same. In fact, no 2 minutes are the same. So it's a really great career to do.
For people thinking of joining, I would say go ahead and do it. Great career, great job security, good for you, good for your family. Be aware that there's going to be a challenge. Not every day is an easy day. It can be difficult. You are going to be working shifts, certainly for that first couple of years. There are going to be days where you feel like giving up. You'll have to be a resilient individual because not every day is a good day. But as a career, it's ultimately rewarding. You're doing something good for you, good for the community, and a career, not just a job.